What the fuck? Seriously, I was just, that's fucked. Yeah. That's so weird. No, seriously, that's so horrible.
So on the 12th of January, Vice decided to make another video on the documentary series that we shot at my house. They did this not of their own free will. I basically asked them if they could do it, or I told them if they could do it because they cut it out of the main documentary on empaths. You see, I explained as to how being an empath is actually just a small aspect of a much wider ability, which is telepathy. Being able to not just feel someone else's emotions, but also hear their thoughts and their memories and other things, their intentions behind a lot of things also. It can be passed on through another person. You can feel their intentions just by looking at them or standing near them. Now, the reason as to why they kind of directed their gaze upon what it is that I'm doing here is because, you know, I've got strange abilities, and they wanted to showcase this within a documentary and hopefully get me to teach the person that came over to harness her empath abilities to see, for one, if she was an empath, or for two, you know, if she is one, how can she make it more obvious not only to herself so that she realizes that she's an empath, because some people out there are kind of, you know, on the fence, like, am I an empath or am I not? Because they can't discern what their emotions are from other people's. And if so, how can she make them stronger, you know, her abilities to feel people from a distance? So throughout the documentary, actually before the documentary, I told her to do a series of things, and she said she was going to do them, and they were going to be taped in order to be placed within the documentary.
So the producer was just saying, would it be possible for me to have just a short list of things that I would be able to do before I meet up with you? Just like a short, quick list of things.
For me to make when you come here?
Yeah, for you to give me, for me to do before I meet you.
Sure, yeah. And these things that I gave her, these practices, were fashioned in order to help her discern her energy from other people's and to heighten her empathic abilities. Yeah. They didn't put that in the final cut, unfortunately. And not only that, but when I told everyone as to what being an empath actually was, the reality of the ability, they also left that out of the final cut. And that is why I asked them to make a follow-up video on at least the experiment that we did. And that is all they did. They just did the experiment within, I believe, a 3-minute video. So all you'll see in this short little feature that I'm about to show you is the experiment. You won't see the explanation that I give beforehand as to how I'm doing it, but I'll give you a brief one right now. The reality is that there is a part of you, there's a part of everyone out here that still realizes that it is connected to everything. And this part of everyone knows that it is actually just one entity, having separate experiences of itself within this kind of dream. I've likened it to a dream before. You know, you go to sleep and your mind splits up and creates all these different characters. Here's the thing, is that when you're around people, that part of you that knows that it's all actually just one mind doesn't notice the difference between you and somebody else. It still thinks on some level that you are just one person in the room, when in all actuality there is actually two or maybe a few of you. Because of this, you're more prone to sharing one mind. You know, you can share their thoughts, you can share their memories even, and that's what I do in this experiment. All memories, all intentions, anything that's consciousness related, even the consciousness that is stored within your body due to your experiences. I'm talking about internal stress. If someone makes you jump, it makes you jump. If you've been kind of depressed all throughout the month at different areas of the month, that gets stored into the body. It's an electrical signal within the body, okay, within your sphere. People call it the toroidal field. This toroidal field is basically consciousness which is going through your body in a form of a magnetic field. Some call it magnetic. Some say it's got other properties to it, etheric properties to it. But the fact still remains is that because it's channeling through the body and all of this distorted energy due to your experiences, so it makes you jump, the energy gets stuck in your livers. It's like an electrical loop that gets carried outside of your sphere. And if someone goes near you, they can pick up on your body's state, generally how you felt within the month, because it's stuck in your body. Your intentions behind anything, if you want to get something done, you kind of carry that on an energetical loop that gets carried outside your sphere. If you're trying to lie to someone, that gets carried outside of your sphere. How you even responded to a past stimuli, someone making you jump and you want to turn around and hit them, that causes an impression within your sphere. It's all in the body, and the sphere is carrying it out the body, and everyone's interacting with everyone else's sphere. They're bumping spheres, so to speak. And that is causing the consciousness to be able to be carried through another person's system. And because, like I said, source consciousness thinks there's only one person in the room, it's going to take ownership of those emotions, those thoughts, and whatever else it feels. And that's when you get people under the illusion or the delusion that they are feeling a certain way or thinking specific thoughts that is indicative to their own personality, when in all actuality it's coming from someone else. Now, also memories. Memories are included in this, of course. If someone is thinking about a memory, and someone is next to that person and they understand how to differentiate, they've done the practices and so forth, then what's going to happen is they can actually just tap into that part of themselves that doesn't see a difference between individuality, and by tapping into that, they can allow that person's thoughts to stream through them and see their memories. Now, when this happens, it is literally like I said before, it's only one person in the room. So when I did this practice, it felt like there was only one person in the room. That was me, and when I say me, I mean her. Okay, so I might say within this little talk, I feel like I'm here, or I feel like I'm looking at this. When I say I'm actually referencing her. Okay, that is how I ended up decoding the memories. Now let's look through this video, and I'm going to talk you through some bits. And we're just going to see. I'm not going to read the comments because Vice is no good. Commentary, their fan base sometimes. Okay, so let's watch the video.
What the fuck? Seriously, I was just...
I hope my content doesn't get striked for inappropriate language.
What the fuck? Seriously, I was just... That's fucked. That's so weird. No, seriously, that's so horrible. Would it work if I thought of a memory and then you managed to pick up on that?
Should do, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just getting time of day. Should be after 12, but it feels like morning. Okay, so I said after 12, but it feels like morning. Because Hannah, I felt like I was tired. Just as tired as someone would be in the morning. Okay, this could be because she'd woken up after 12. So let's continue. Oh, also, she also mentioned later on within the interview that they cut it out as well, but she mentioned as to how she feels tired most of the time, like all the time, and I picked up on that also. Not clear sky. Things coming up on my filter. Okay, things coming up on my filter, not clear sky. When she's going through the memory, it's like she's reliving it, so it feels like I'm reliving it, and it feels like I could feel the breeze. I can kind of see the grey in the sky. I can see the memory, I can experience it, and it comes in a specific area of the body and it shoots up a channel. I just let it shoot up a channel in my body, and then it goes up into my head and I start seeing images. So let's continue. And not outside, but not inside neither. It's like an image came up with me looking at the sky, and I was like near kind of like a porch type thing. Now it feels like I'm not on my own. It feels like there's another female there, but she's older than me. I want to say like a parent figure, but that doesn't quite sit right. It's more like the energy of what she's admitting. Did you know her in school? Yeah, high school. Yeah. So I say parent figure because it's like she's very wise. Like, Hannah goes to her for comfort, essentially. It's like she's always around when she needs her the most. So let's continue. I don't want to get too specific. And also on that note, I read her friend through Hannah. Because like I said, everyone picks up on everything. Everyone picks up on everyone else's biospheres. So while she was in the memory, she had actually recorded information from her sphere, which gave me information about her friend's life. And I started describing her as well. And that's when things got like really weird and people started turning the cameras to each other. And documentary people never do that. They never break that kind of wall or that kind of illusion. They never even speak in documentaries. It's usually the person who's being filmed that just talks. But this freaked them all out. Then I started reading the cameramen and the camerawomen as well, and their intentions and what they were focusing on. It got pretty weird. But they cut it out too. During that memory, was you with a different boyfriend? You're no longer with them?
No. There are men there, but it's not anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. So another piece that they cut out was during this process, she had mentioned as to how the guy next to her, which is the guy I was feeling through her, was interested in her, like sexually. And that is why I said if they were dating, because, or if that was her boyfriend, because boyfriends and girlfriends, they got very high sexual energy between each other, and he was like really ramped up. So I just assumed that they were dating. And this is why you should never get too specific when you do a reading like this, because, you know, energy is energy, but the storylines behind energies differ. And it's pretty cool, but they cut it out as well. I don't know why they cut that out. Well, I have my assumptions, but let's just keep going. I mean, you don't want someone who's always right throughout the reading, you know? It's like a male energy. That was more of an empathic thing. That wasn't really an image thing. And then I just got an image of you just laying on the bed with the door open, and it's night. So. Okay, when I said that, I can actually remember how I felt at the time when I read that kind of energy which showed up as that image. It was like a long night. She was by herself. She wasn't feeling very happy. She wasn't crazy depressed. But it felt more like agitation and a slight aggravation. You know, she was just laying there in her clothes with her shoes on the bed. You know, and this was a specific memory unrelated to the one that I was picking up on that she was thinking, because that memory was connected to the emotions within her body, which came out, that leaked. So she was just thinking about one memory, but others were coming through as well. Ones that she wasn't thinking about. I don't know what that is now, but it's kind of weird.
This is what I'm thinking about. We're sat on the porch and it's sunny, but like a little bit kind of overcast.
Cloud, yeah,
and there's like the outside here and the house is like here. Yeah. And my best friend sat across from me. And it was when we went on holiday and these guys were being like really awful. And I was just, because that was like the strongest thing that I could think of where I'd have like, had like a really visceral reaction to it.
When the emotions get really precise, that's when you can get words. Like, if you were to say, we can go like real simple. If you were to say the word apple inside your head.
Oh my God, I was just thinking apple. What the fuck? Seriously, that's fuck. I was just thinking apple. That's so weird. No, seriously, that's so horrible.
Horrible?
Just as soon as, not horrible, that's just horrible.
Okay, so on that last piece there, I was saying that essentially behind every word you say, there is an energy to it, which everyone overlooks. They just go straight to the language. But if you can, there's an exercise that I teach. If you can say A, B, C, and then tone down your voice, A, B, C, inside your head, tone down the voice. What you're focusing on there, what you're going to become aware of, is the feeling behind A and the feeling behind B and the feeling behind C, along with how it changes form vibrationally within your head. It's not a physical vibration, it's a feeling behind the word. Okay? Every thought you have has that feeling inside the body. And if I can tap into that feeling, I can basically take that energy and put it back into language or into an image. And that's how it generally happens within the body with empaths. Okay? Now, I wouldn't call this aspect of the ability empaths at all. I call this whole thing just a consciousness exchange. People have honed in on one aspect and called it empath, being an empath, but it's more than that. When you're really aware inside the body, you understand the fact that it is all just consciousness changing forms. And here's a really cool thing. I did this with 2 people online, and that is, when you can feel the energy behind words, the words become redundant. Okay, you don't need the words anymore. Someone could be speaking to you in a different language, and as long as you can just pick up on that feeling behind the language, you can generally make out what they're saying. And if you can get really good, you can literally translate what they're saying in your native tongue. Yeah? And behind the words comes in, comes up, picks words within your head in your language, then you spit it back out. So that's a bit tough, but I did it on 2 occasions. One guy spoke to me in Korean. I said, just speak to me in Korean, act as if I already know Korean, because if you're sat there and you're under the impression that this is an experiment, then you're going to be waiting. And that's all I'm going to feel is your anticipation. So I said, you have to just kind of knock it on the head of the fact that I just asked you to participate in this experiment and just speak to me as if you're speaking Korean. And he did. And all I felt was a bunch of energy, which somewhat made sense, but then it just went up, collapsed into words, and then I spoke what he said, and he was freaking out. Okay? I've only done that on 2 occasions online, on Skype, and the other times I used to do it as a kid, I didn't really realize what I was doing. I was just sitting there, and I was listening to people's conversations, and some people were Pakistani, some people were Indian, and they were speaking amongst each other, okay, in Arabic. And as they were speaking in Arabic, I could make out what they were saying. I could make out what they were saying. And I would just be sat there like this with a smile on my face. And they would look at me. And one of them noticed what I was doing. She was an older lady. She's quite wise. She's been around. She can tell when someone knows what they're saying, And I'm there smiling, and she looks at me, and she goes, but she doesn't say anything. And then she continues on with her story to her friends in her language. I interject and I say something in English. I actually continue what they were saying from their language into English. Freaks them out. I did it a few times. And she said, how do you do that? Have you studied, Arabic? And I said, no, I just get this sense that I know what you're talking about. So I just say things, And then she was kind of looking out for that. Just became aware of what I was doing, and then that kind of messed up my whole process, and then I was going to stop. But it was pretty cool. So I'm Ryan James Grubber. This has been Your Potential. If you're an empath, or if you consider yourself as an empath, don't become jaded into the idea. Try to open your mind to that, because, when I understood the fact that, or when I came to terms with the fact that I wasn't just an empath, I wasn't an empath, that's when my kind of awareness opened up, and I started to look at other aspects of energy exchange, which made me realize the bigger picture. And that is that I was actually I just take information from a distance. It's telepathy, but not word exchange. It's bigger than just words. It's everything. Everything a person is consciously, you can attain from them. And they don't even have to be thinking it sometimes. You can just reach in and take it out. And I know that's kind of pervasive, but like I said, source consciousness doesn't know the difference between everyone, because it still thinks it's one being sometimes. And that's not to say that it's still okay, but, I don't do that. I've done it, but for the sake of other people, close friends, and I've given them advice on things that they were unable to otherwise think about. You know, it's like they had a problem, they didn't know what it was. So I kind of brought it out and brought it up indirectly, be that as it may, indirectly. You know, we're having a conversation, and I knew they had something wrong with them in a certain area of their life, maybe relationships. So I talked about my relationships, and then we went into it that way. But yeah, this is Your Potential. I'm Ryan JC, Ryan James Grubber. Subscribe for more videos like this, and yeah, speak to you all pretty soon. Peace.